Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada.
Derek, how do you like in the Olympics? What'd you think of that 200? Gabby Thomas was incredible.
Found you.
400.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Gabby Thomas, dude, is legit.
She is no joke. I love her. She's fantastic.
And she went to Harvard.
Neurobiology, global health. That's what I studied. Citation in French. Whatever.
Holy crap. Brandon, how you been, man?
I'm good. Good. Yeah, you?
Yeah, everything's good. Can't complain, you know.
I don't do much on social media, so I kind of know more what's up with you than you know what's up with me because I follow you. So it's like, okay, I know what Don's doing.
Yeah, just work.
Every time I see
that?
Brandon, it's like I see an airplane wing or an airport. Or
That's all I do. That's when I finally remember, I should post something. And I usually do it after I get back. That way nobody knows when I'm gone.
Yeah, that makes sense. And listen, that's part of your business. Like, people don't understand with my business, like, it is very social and email driven. It just is. It's just part of what I do. So, but you got to ride the wave, right? And that's something I think I had to learn to embrace over the last probably 15 years. Because in the beginning, it's like, I don't want to do this, and I don't want to like the celeb angle and this and that. But when you start like looking at when they're riding a wave, or if the people you're working with are in a premiere, like, you got to put your foot on the gas, and you have to try and build off of that. And once you learn how to do it, it's fascinating, the growth that you can, enhance in that period of time. I mean, it's really as well, but it's work. It is.
When a new Deadpool movie comes out, I'm like, oh my God, it's like everybody's gone to it, and they don't keep movies up as long anymore. They go straight to streaming. So I want to see stuff in the theater.
I know. The only time I ever go to a theater now is premieres. I never go on my own. I'm too comfortable on my couch.
Yep.
I don't want to go sit in a chair and eat some freezing movie theater. It's like, but like I go to probably 4 to 6 premieres a year, I'd say. Yeah, so it's a decent amount. So
there you go.
4 to 6 more than I go to a year.
Yes.
It's good stuff. So Brandon, man, talk to us. What is going on in your life right now? This is like, we've never had a guest on, I think, 3 times. I mean, this is like, we love you. We love you.
Hurting.
No, not at all. No, not at all. And I got to be not at all. Derek and I run this podcast. This is not something where, and Derek will be the first to admit it, we're not like trying to heavily monetize this. Like, this is just,
right.
We purely do this out of enjoyment, that we like talking to each other, and we like interviewing fascinating people. And, we don't, we just do, we just hang. It's just fun.
No, yeah. I mean, the only thing that's kind of new is we just got back from LA speaking at Perform Better, right? And I spoke on recovery and regeneration, and I completely revamped that talk.
Wow.
And I revamped it because of what I'm seeing on social media, as we were talking about earlier, right? Like, I think we've become too binary in our profession. This is good, this is bad. Trap bar is good, trap bar is bad. Speed training is good, speed training is bad. Ladders are good, ladders are bad. Protein is good, right? All of these things. We don't have to be binary. So the question shouldn't be, is coffee good or is coffee bad? Because coffee is on the top 10 things that prevent cancer. And coffee is also on the top 10 things that cause cancer, right? So the question should be, is coffee good for me right now? And I think that's how we need to approach everything, instead of like, and the post that really sent me down this to revamp my talk was like on cold plunge, right? Like, are we done with this? We shouldn't be doing cold plunge. This is a waste of time. Just look at the evidence. Why are we still doing this? We're still doing it because there's a benefit, right? Like, what is your goal? Is your goal hypertrophy? Well, then maybe, and I say maybe because the evidence really isn't that good that says it really prevents.
Oh, they're saying it blunts. Yeah, they're saying it blunts hypertrophy. But then my next question is it bad on an off day? And you start weighing out, well,
Exactly.
What am I doing it for? Like, I use it on my off day because it regenerates my body and my mind, and I sleep better. And then I come back in and I have a good training session. Monday morning, I did something I normally never do.
Yes.
I woke up Monday morning, did not feel physically great, sat on the couch all Sunday afternoon, just relaxing, eating pizza, which I can't tell you the last time I did that. Woke up, felt completely off. I jumped in a cold plunge. I took a shower. I stretched. I ate breakfast. Felt like $1 million. Who's going to tell me that's bad now, right?
Right. It's we get caught up in this, again, this binary type of thing. Like you talk about pizza. I always talk about donuts. Like I love donuts. Physically, I know they're bad for you, right? We all can agree that it's not a health food. But my mom used to take me for donuts Friday mornings before school. I take my kids for donuts once a week. And that is more, it fills my cognitive bucket, my social bucket, my emotional bucket. So I probably get a net gain, even though I take a small hit physically. It may not even infect me physically because I'm getting all those positive benefits in the cognitive, physical, or cognitive, social, and emotional worlds, right? So I think we just have to, we erode the context from things, and we get caught up in this like good versus bad. And it's irritating. That's why I changed it. Anyway, I don't know.
Derek?
I know, because I get these couple of newsletters that are research-based newsletters, medical performance, obviously. And that's what you see even in the research. You see the research says this is really good, like semaglutide. Oh, great for these patients. Semaglutide. No, people are retching all over the place and have anal leakage or whatever. But it's all over the map. And I'm just like, maybe I should just be ignorant. I don't know. Like it does this bipolar sort of, presentation that we get on everything is just so, and it obviously it starts with politics, right? But it's very hard to take because the pendulum just keeps swinging, and I just like, I don't want to hear any of it at all at some point.
Yeah. So a lot of it's just kind of adding in the context of things, like talking about sauna. Like, I'm like, okay, what's your goal? Is it ANS modulation? Is it longevity? Is it decreasing cholesterol? Is it general cardiovascular health? Like, what is it for what you are trying to look? And then we can prescribe the actual protocol that meets that, instead of like, is it good? I don't, what do you want to do? Right? I have appendicitis. Not a good idea. Right? Like, okay, let's add the context back into it and figure out what's happening. And then the other thing is, and Derek, you and I talk about this, right? Is like speed training. There are a lot of people that do not believe and buy into speed training, right? Watching the Olympics, there was a whole host of people in the track and field community that have made a very good living off of helping people run faster. And what we've found, or I've seen, is probably people think it's a waste of time because the way they have coached speed has not yielded the results that they had hoped for. So rather than try to reevaluate it, they're like saying it's a waste of time, right? But if movement is a skill and speed is a skill, like lifting weights is a skill, and teaching people proper technique when lifting weights to teach them to apply force in the ground the best way possible, would then apply to running, right? So, I think sometimes people just dismiss things because they're not very good at doing it.
I completely agree there. Now, I think I'm also going to take it a step forward further. And I'm going to say that I think a lot of coaches are being irresponsible with their information because, we understand what clickbait is now, and everyone wants that catchy phrase that, that's going to grab someone and pull them in. And I hear a lot of intelligent coaches that have been in the business for a while, and I'm shocked because they can't start a sentence without saying the research says, the research says, the research says, over and over and over. And I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of contradictory research decades later. I'm in the business now 26 years. So what are you saying? Like, what about the 30 years you've been in the business? What about the 30 years of trial and error that you've gone through, or the people that you've worked with? And you understand that, a modality like this could be great, but someone out there now who's got a massive following is putting information out there. An example I'm going to give right now, I'm not going to mention the guy's name because I don't want to give this person any light. Because that's what a lot of these coaches are looking for also. But it was Aura the other day. I've become very friendly with one of the largest private investors of Aura. And he sent me an article that this coach broke down why he thinks Aura is not a good idea. Okay. All he can talk about in this article was how it's benefited him But what ended up happening was he started obsessing over the numbers so much that something that was very positive for him became negative. And I get that. But isn't that obsession on him? Isn't that obsession on how he's taking in this information? And isn't he a bit, isn't he bashing a company that I believe is doing a lot of positive? It's giving us a lot of positive information. I've been working with him now for 6 years. A lot of positive information. Is it for everyone? Probably not. But isn't he turning around in the same sentence? He went, "It has done so much for me, but I am pretty much against this now." Don't you find that irresponsible?
Yes. And it does provide a lot of benefits. We're using it now with like our military groups, right? One of the projects I'm working on is the OHWS program, which is optimizing the human weapon system. It's a tri-services project. And we outfit our soldiers with wearable devices, one of them being an Oura Ring. And it's to inform them of their behaviors, habits, and choices. So how do their decisions, cognitively, physically, social, emotionally, impact their physiology so they can learn from that, right? Numbers don't lie and numbers can educate. And yeah, some people wear it for a little bit. Some people wear it all the time. Some people, and they all do it for different reasons, right? I wear mine every day. I wear mine every night. I don't wear mine during the day, right? I know that it doesn't give me chronotype because of that. I know my readiness score is not accurate because I don't wear it during the day because it doesn't have that information, but I'm okay with that. But sure, there are people that are going to obsess about the data and obsess about things. I mean, we've seen all that in the athletic world. I mean, Derek, you've seen 1,000 times, right? Like they don't want to see a bad readiness score on game day because they might freak out. Am I not ready? They might be questioning themselves. Sure, there are people like that, right? Washing your hands is a good thing, but there are people that obsess over washing their hands over and over and over again. To your point, Don, it's not the washing hands, which is the problem, right? It's something else. And one thing that this social media world has done, right? Well, let's talk about what social media is, right? You're comparing your insides to other people's outsides, which is never a good thing, right? And then what people do is it's hard for them to look introspectively and own things. So we rather take our sand and put it in other people's buckets, right? So it's just easy to deflect that way instead of saying, one, I was wrong, right? Because that's what scientists do all the time. Science is a search for the truth. That's why we replicate study. Post-exercise protein shakes. Remember those? You had to get it within the metabolic window based upon John Ivy's research at Texas and that whole book, Nutrient Timing. I'm right there with them, making shakes. Come on, guys. They're already lined up. They got your on there. Let's go. We got the metabolic windows closing.
The anabolic window. Yeah,
Closing,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. I love it.
And then what we learned later on, because we replicated studies and other people replicated, next thing you know, 20 different groups did the same study. Or like, we didn't find anything. Did you find anything? Oh, we didn't find anything. Did you find? We didn't find anything. None of us found anything. That's weird. So what we now realize, there's no metabolic window. Does it make us bad practitioners? No, only if we don't change the way we educate. There's nothing wrong with having a post-exercise shake to this day, but to tell your clients it's because there's this magical window in which you must consume it, now that's not being a good practitioner, right? So it is tough to stay up with the research, and it is tough to also own your mistakes and be able to say that as a practitioner, right? Hey, I once did this. Boy, I was wrong, right? But now this is why I do it this way, because we've learned more, and that's okay.
Derek?
And I think people will latch onto you more and appreciate that more than, dying on a hill because you believe there's a metabolic window. That's not there. Anyway.
See?
I got a tangent here. I had to say it because Brandon was talking about washing your hands obsessively. I was watching the open water swim in the Olympics last night, and so I think my son's like, "Oh, some guy did not wash his hands for a year to prepare his immune system for swimming in the Seine." And I'm like, oh geez. And I looked at a couple of articles, and there are people actually talking about swimming and encountering turds in the water and all that. What do you think of that? They made these people swim in one of the most polluted waterways in the world, and
Yeah.
they're all, and they go, oh, the E. coli is good now, our window, get in the water, right? It's just
Yeah.
crazy what they made them do. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it is, right? I mean, there's some danger with that. Somebody, I don't know who, set this acceptable level. So there's an acceptable level of E. coli, right? I mean, we have that everywhere. We think we have acceptable levels of arsenic in our foods, right? That's okay. It doesn't mean no one's trying to poison us. It means we can excrete it. It's not dangerous, right? But there are acceptable levels of all sorts of things in our water that we drink, right? At somebody arbitrarily sets based upon maybe science, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, like I would want more real-time monitoring of the water, to be honest
Yeah,
with
they
you.
had surfing somewhere else, like in the Polynesian islands or something like that. Why wouldn't they have
Yeah.
swimming somewhere else where it was safe? And that really bothered me. I mean, because I'm seeing them, they're doing this marathon swim, and then they're passing them little things where they can drink or eat or whatever, and they're in the water, and I'm just like, I'm just
It's
ill watching
it
it.
is gross. And I'm a germaphobe. So like when you talk about washing hands, so it's funny, is like when I have to go get fingerprinted for work, right? Like they always have a hard time reading my fingerprints. So they say it's like one of two things. Either they're one of three things. Either like you either do some really squirrely stuff, like clandestine stuff, and or you work with solvents, and or you just wash your hands a lot. I said, well, it's three. I wash my hands a lot. So as a result, like I have like very little fingerprints. But so I always have a hard time finding them because of that. So anyway, I owned it.
Brandon, I got to ask you a question. I mean, pivoting back to the wearable conversation,
Yeah.
are you seeing that market now is kind of leveling off because there was such a massive boom in the amount of product coming out there? Are you seeing that that's leveling off now, and the big hitters are the ones that are here to stay, and or are you seeing anything else coming out that I think is really interesting you?
I think I stand by, I think with me last time I spoke, right? The same thing. I think we're going to see what we're seeing more is ability to, again, the quantified self, right? Um, like I think, and now it's moving toward analytes. Like you have continuous glucose monitoring, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's huge, right? Because now tying it back to dovetailing with the research piece, now I can see exactly what does white rice do for my blood glucose level. And what does white rice paired with chicken do for my blood glucose level? Instead of saying, well, I'm going to follow the glycemic index or glycemic load that looks at the population like that and makes the assumptions that I'm in the middle. Now I can really understand how my body responds to these things in real time. That's amazing, right? So what you're going to see is more of these different analytes that they want to be able to capture on you, right?
So
What you're seeing.
Brandon, are non-diabetics using those types of devices to
Yeah.
monitor? Wow.
Yep. Yeah. Now you can go buy them over the counter.
Wow.
Right. So it's fun, right? You can get feedback into your nutrition and those things and really make things individualized, right? So now you're quantifying you.
Without
So
having to have a needle in your arm for 2 weeks.
yeah, exactly. You can
Yeah,
have that
yeah.
thing on there, and then what you'll notice though, like, and you'll learn this if you do it, like you'll start to see some erratic levels, and that just means your battery's dying. So it's like, oh, okay, it's not really my nutrition. I need to pull it off because it's reaching the end of its life. Because you'll notice it. Wait, why is my nutrition responding like that? Or why is my glucose responding? It's not that. It's just the monitor's going. It's reached its end.
I didn't even know they were coming out with that because I've tested CGMs
Mhm.
3 times and 3 different times where I had to wear it for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And I mean, personally got like nothing out of it. Like it didn't give me any feedback. It like anything. I mean, fortunately for me, a lot of what I put in my body, I'm pretty level and I never really get any spike. And right. So, but when I took up one off recently, I wore one probably a couple months ago because the company was talking to me. And I took it off and left a scar in my arm, for God's sakes. Like looking at my tricep, and there's like a black, like filled in hole on my tricep now. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is really intrusive. Like they're gonna have to figure this out. People can't what happened to the back of your arm? I'm like, oh, I wore a CGM. It's like, oh, I'm not wearing one. Like, it's going to scare the hell out of people. So it is actually refreshing to hear that they're going to be launching that hopefully soon.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. There's people and things I spoke about last time. I think nearables are certainly already here, right? Like you go to Consumer Electronics Show, and you see it. You look in a mirror and you get your vital signs, right? So I can get it'll give you my heart rate. I think the blood pressure might already be out by now, right? Body temperature, all these things just by looking in the mirror in the morning, right? And then all of a sudden they'll pair all these things together. So that with an aura, with your toothbrush, with, it's really just trying to encompass everything. So, and where the money is being made is going to be in the monetization of that data, right? What can people do with that data, and who wants it? Who's going to pay for it, and what can they do with it for good or for bad, right? So, I mean, these devices aren't going away anytime soon. We're just going to be learning more and more about ourselves. And to your point, Don, about being intrusive, that's what these things do, right? You can go now, you can buy, is it Withings? I think Withings has a whole suite of products, right? Blood pressure, scales, everything. I think they even have, it's either Abbott or it's Withings that has like a disc that you put in your toilet and can measure your urine, right? So you pee on
wow.
it. Yeah. It'll give you feedback on your urine. Not like a full urinalysis that you would get in a lab, but enough, that it moves the needle, might give you information. They have smart toilets, right? That can give you insights on a few people in your home and look at your feces and look at your health. I mean, that's how they're monitoring COVID, right? They're looking at wastewater because it's very detectable in wastewater. And you can see exactly from what neighborhoods they're having peaks, because they can see it. So, I mean, there's just a plethora of data to be pulled from the human that people are curious about, right? We're curious about ourselves. So, yeah.
Are you worried about all the technology and in fact the effects of the brain? I mean, Elon Musk recently turned around and said that the whole earpiece headset thing is complete BS. There's no danger to it. Like, where is your belief leading you to right now? Should we worry about that?
The current research indicates that there really is nothing to worry about. But again, we also had current research that said, drink your protein shake within a 30-minute window. Now, granted, the level of rigor on those research studies compared to the protein ones are completely different and much higher. But I mean, there are people who are sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies. There are people that you could blindfold them and walk them through your house and they can tell you where their router is or where your smart meter is. There are just people that are very sensitive to those things, whether they can hear it, whether they can feel it, I don't know, but they're out there, right? So we can't discount it. But I think it's definitely worth watching, for sure. No.
I get it. D?
Doesn't this, I mean, this whole discussion, like I was thinking even about like COVID and how it affects people differently. And it's out there, right? Like I remember hearing about California has a big, a large number of COVID cases recently. And but this individual variability issue is so important, like even when dealing with athletes or whoever. How much is that at the top of your head when you're just thinking about like, okay, this technology, this type of training, nutrition, are we spending enough time looking at individuals rather than just trying to come up with blanket statements about what to do and what not to do?
We should be spending more time looking at individuals, 100%. What's interesting is this individuality thing. I started thinking about, this is going to sound crazy, when I was 19 years old. I had my appendix taken out and it burst. And they gave me some pain meds and they gave me Darvocet. And I remember taking it and they're like, this is a very strong pain pill. Did nothing. It felt like I took, I don't know, a sugar pill for all I knew. It didn't do anything. And I'm like, this didn't do anything. So then the doctor then prescribed, I think it was like Vicodin or whatever it was, right? Floored me. And I started thinking then, why is that? And that always was in the back of my head. Then as studying physiology and taking different classes, I always had that question in the back of my head. And then I finally took a class from Rob Knight, who used to teach at Colorado. Now he's in San Diego at UCSD. And he was talking about I took his class about the microbiome. And he started talking about how different people will have different responses to foods, medications, all different things based upon their bacteria. And the light clicked on and answered that question that, okay, it must be my genetics, how well I chose my mom and dad, coupled with the environments in which I've lived, coupled with how I've eaten and all of those things that create this bacteria that didn't allow this medication to work very well, but allowed this other one to for me, right? So it was fascinating. So what I'm saying is that we need to think individualized, right? Like these blanket training statements just don't move the needle, right? Like giving everybody the same type of training, even foam rolling, for instance, just doing generic foam rolling may not be good for that specific person because you're going the wrong direction, right? It can be very much individualized. So the wrong exercise to the wrong depth at the wrong time, at the wrong vector, at the wrong tension can bring about a completely different and maybe undesirable response, right?
I wonder what percentage, right? Like what percentage of people, if you do go out to the masses and say you are like I sell online programs, but I'm also offering a coaching solution to that. So when people join my challenges, they have access to me, literally to me 5 days a week. I could have 1,500 people on. If you ask me a question, I'm answering it the next day. It doesn't matter. And I'm finding that probably maybe, I don't know, 3 to 5% of the people, you have to figure out a different type of roadmap for. Like, okay, this isn't going to work. Okay, you know what? You have adjusted your macros to 35, 35, 30. Where's your sodium? Where's your water consumption? What's going on? It's not foolproof. I mean, we know that.
Sure.
But I'm curious to start exploring what percentage of people, is that like an accurate number? I believe in my community, 3 to 5%. Is that low? Is that high? Because listen, you got to admit, if you offer a program, a solution, most people are going to get on it. They're following it. They're doing what they need to be doing. They will probably have a good response to it. But every once in a while, you run into this roadblock of, okay, there's a problem here, right?
Absolutely. And I see it more, you know, with the athletic population, the sports population, right? Because these people are like, I mean, look at the Olympics on right now, right? People are losing by 100th of a second. I mean, look at 500th of a second with Lyles winning or getting
Lyles. That was
right. 500ths of a second, right?
Oh, 5/1000ths.
5/1000ths. Thank you.
Yeah.
5/1000ths of a second, right? Like a
5
blink of an eye is 300ths of a second, right? So it's like, you know, a lot is on the line. There's a lot of work, a lot of training for that. And, you know, what can move the needle one way or another is immense. Like, you know, I look at the stuff like my wife is doing right now with her clientele. You know, she works has more concierge business, has a lot of Major League Baseball players. She had an Olympic swimmer. Her swimmer won 2 gold and a silver, I think, that she was working with. You know, her job is to kind of help these people achieve optimal movement. So she's working with pitchers and she has some position players, but it's like, it is all fine tuning. It is all like, you can't do this exercise. This is going to take away from this. And what's fascinating how she can do it is she uses force plates and all these other things to check her work. She doesn't use them to tell her how to program. She uses them to validate her programs. So she's like, I should be seeing this, this, and this in a force plate. And she'll see it. Great, my program's working. Or I should see this, this, and this on a force plate. Ah, yes, it's working. I should see this on their velocity or this on their curveball. And I should be able to see this with their hips. And sure enough, she can show it. She can show direct contribution to skill, which I think a lot of people in the sports performance world have a hard time doing, right? We make leaps. If I get you stronger, you can run faster, jump higher. It's not necessarily true. If I make you stronger, you're more resilient to injury. Also not necessarily true. You're stacking assumptions. And when you stack assumptions, so many of them, now you have a bad game of Jenga, and those things are going to come falling down. So, you know, for the general population, absolutely. I think general health, general fitness, general wellness, That's going to get them going, to your point, Don. Absolutely. When we're talking about
But
that
that
last,
niche, yeah, that niche, right? Yeah,
100th, 5,000ths of a second,
big time.
that's
Big
where.
time. No, I'm with you 100%. Actually, I wanted to jump in. Have you guys seen this yet? This is a company that it's called Oh God, I can't believe I'm actually going to get it messed up. And again, they need help with their marketing because they just put BLA. I think it's What is it? Ballastin. It's a force plate shoe. It's not made to run with. You're not supposed to run. You're supposed to walk. So, and it's obviously we know what force plates do, but it was interesting because I put it on and you go for a walk and it lets you know your weight distribution and it gives you all that information. And you look at a company like this, I'm like, wow, this is great information. But any of these companies that I see launching now, it's almost like, all right, like, are people ready for this information yet? Like, I believe that maybe 10, 15, 20 years, this will be in everyone's sneakers and it will immediately spit out information that becomes valuable and completely user-friendly, but they have to start somewhere. So it was interesting for me to kind of test this out and try it and see what it offered. And also for me to understand that, like, wow, like not a lot of people are going to buy that right now. Right. But maybe they work on the tech until one day it's in all of our sneakers. It's but they got to go through that stage, right?
They do. And the other thing is, but I mean, what are you going to do with the data, right? Like, what does that information tell you? It's like all the COVID tests, right? When that came out, we have all these tests that tell you have COVID. Now what? Right? What? Yeah. We didn't have anything then. Yeah. We only have tests that tell you can have it.
And well, what do I take? It's like you ride it out.
Right. How do you handle it? What do you do? Right. And everybody's coming up with their own things. Right. Yeah. So it's like, great. Now what? What do you do what's the intervention? And how do you read that and how do you assess it? And I think that's where kind of like, again, you have those two tiers. You have a 60% solution, and then maybe a 70 or 80% solution. And then you have that top elite solution, which is kind of like, it's different. It's not just foam rolling before a workout, because you have to be deliberate about the direction and how you're doing it. It's not just doing things on both sides to even things out. That can be a potential mistake. Problem, right? It's not just about trap bar deadlifting. That could be a mistake, right? Because what we're doing is we're taking these Olympic-based protocols on Olympic-based people from Russia, right? People doing translations with that, and maybe some endocrine support.
Oh, you didn't like Soviet Sport Review?
And
I remember those.
And I do, right? So who did the translation? Who left out the stuff with endocrine support? And who left out about what these athletes were built like, right? Because that's who these workouts were tailored to, was for them. They're just telling you what they did for them. And that may not work for someone like me or Derek or Don or whoever, right? So it's worth thinking about, is my point.
I remember talking to somebody about Soviet Sport Review, and they were from the Soviet Union, and they're like, well, yeah, a lot of those studies, people just made up results because the more sensationalistic it would be, the more it would be published, and it was just everybody trying to one-up each other after a while. So, yeah, there wasn't a lot of integrity there.
Sure. Right? It's like the East Germany Sports Review. Take the blue pill. You'll be fine.
Oh my God. What are the testing protocols right now for the Olympics? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I know. I mean, I haven't been involved with an Olympic program since 2008. That was my last time I was with the delegation, where I was actually on site. But I mean, I'm sure it's probably very similar. Derek might know more, but like in the United States, you can be tested anytime. You have to let them know where you're going to be, where you're traveling, how long you're going to be there. You could be, Don, you could be at Perform Better. You could be Olympic athlete. You could be at Perform Better in Chicago, and they might show up there and say you're getting tested.
But he does get 3 strikes, Brandon, and that's been that's the wriggle room, right?
Right. A missed test is considered a failed test. So
wait, what do you mean? A missed test?
3 strikes. You get 3 strikes. So yeah, if I say I'm going to Jamaica for holidays or whatever, and I'm actually in, St. Kitts or whatever, and they show up, that's 1 strike against me. So I got,
Oh, wow.
and I get another one. And so that's the way people have been manipulating the system right now is like you get 3 strikes because if it was just one, it's like one false start, you're out now, right? When it used to be you get 2.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to, I don't know how they're going to fix that, but people are manipulating it. So,
Tough.
I don't know. I mean, I
like,
think
did you see the Tour
it's
de
so
France
hard.
times, guys? Like the guy who
No,
won the Tour de France, he was like killing Armstrong's times. And he's like, oh, he's good. Yeah. He's not taking anything.
Right? Nothing to see here.
it's also, I also think it's like impossible, right? Like it really is impossible to keep up with entirely. I remember the whole Major League Baseball fiasco that happened, we're going on now 20, God, it was 20 something years ago, right? It's
Yeah.
how do you start turning over those stones? Right? There's just too many people. Like, how do you start putting asterisks next to certain names? How are you going to expose a couple of people from Jamaica, a couple athletes from Jamaica, when you know that maybe a few other athletes from another country, are definitely taking it? Right? It's a luck thing. It's a timing thing. I don't know. I just think it's impossible to maintain. Do you think they should just leave it alone? Do you think they should just allow athletes to make their own decisions and do what they want? I mean, and now especially, what about all this hormone replacement therapy that's going on now that's legal? Doesn't that become a gray area? Isn't that, well, hold on, it's being prescribed by my doctor. I have low testosterone. Does that mean I can't compete if I'm supplementing it into my daily regimen? Like, it just seems like a complete cluster.
Well, I think there are certain, and not say the rules are perfect by any means, but there are certain rules for certain sports, right? Like a beta blocker is not allowed in shooting sports, but it's allowed in other sports because a beta blocker would be it'd give you an advantage. It's a performance enhancing drug in shooting, right? Because it drops your heart rate and calms it down, right? So like biathlon, for instance, in the Winter Olympics, you're not allowed to take a beta blocker, right? I mean, there's certain levels of caffeine that you're not even allowed to take, right? No one would ever reach those. You have to drink like 10 cups of coffee within 1 hour to reach those levels, right? But, it's a tough balance between the spectacle and the optics, right? You're trying to manage both the optics of a good, fair, clean competition, but also the spectacle of very fast, tight, close races, competition, and those things, right? And that's where sometimes the people forget there are 2 sides of every sport. There is a entertainment side, which is all sports is, it's entertainment, right? And then there's the business side. And they feed one another, and sometimes not in a good way, right? It's like the NBA and having people sit out, right? There's the entertainment factor, and that's driven by the business side as well. That's saying, well, we're losing money because Steph Curry's on the bench. He needs to play. We can't do this load management crap anymore. And then there's the health and player welfare side saying, well, this is something that we're concerned about, right? How do you balance the two? I don't know. Same thing with the Olympics, right? So health and wellness versus business.
And then you find out that those NBA players don't train in the off season, so they're out of shape. So that's why they need load management because they're not in good enough shape, right? Like it's crazy what's going on these days.
Yeah, exactly, right. And they don't have to because there's a players association, all these things, and you can't monitor them, and you can't do these things. They want to be, it's really interesting. You're seeing it everywhere. The whole landscape of everything has changed. Even college sports, right? Nuts now.
Oh my God, especially with these athletes taking, what were they showing 2 athletes the other day that signed a deal with, I think, Lamborghini.
Yeah,
really? They both had 2 brand. Yeah, they two. One had a brand Lamborghini SUV, and the other one had like an actual like a Lamborghini, and it was their like signing bonus or something.
people are leaving like good schools, like really good schools, and going to just like, not to knock at the schools, but they're not really academically known because they got paid $1.5 million for NIL. Sure, I'll skip. I'll go to wherever, right? Instead of going
to what, Harvard?
Harvard, Stanford, Cal, right? Like a good prestigious school. And they'll go to like whatever. I don't know. not gonna
It's
pick on
Come
hysterical.
on, name one.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm like, what school are you talking about? No.
Because I was at a school a couple weeks ago, a big basketball school, and they were saying it's probably about 2 million for a player that's not going to make the NBA, but they're good. They're good. They're gonna, we need that player. They'll probably start on our team, but won't make the NBA. And the minimum asking price is about 2 million per year. And then as part of that, what's happening, it seems, is that that's the priority. So if somebody says, hey, we need a new training room upgrade, or we need a weight room upgrade, or we need a new floor in the gym, that comes second now. Any capital expenditure is secondary because we need the players first and foremost.
Absolutely. That's how it's funny. I remember that from my college days being in college sports. It's like, hey, we need a strength coach. Sorry, not in the budget, but men's basketball can hire a fifth video guy. No problem. Go ahead. Right? It's like, what just happened? What? They have how many players? And they have a staff of like 60. Like, I need one.
I'm more curious right now because this money, call what you want, incentive in college sports is still fairly new, right? How many years are we talking about right now? 3 to 5? Or what is it?
Not even.
Where are we at? Not even, right? So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the performance of these athletes, right? Like, are they going to start losing that level of hunger, that level of fight? Is that work ethic going to dip? Egos going to go through the roof? Are these players going to start now? Again, like, I have my opinion on professional sports. Like, I do not. I think if an owner of an organization is investing 10, 20, 30, 50 million bucks into a player, I think they should have some say in the offseason about where they're going to train. They have say on whether, all right, well, you know what? If you go skiing and you break your leg, you're not getting paid. So why can a team say that, but then they can go have this athlete train with his cousin who knows jack shit about anything training wise, and then the next their investments being put into a compromising position, and then you know what, they're getting hurt. And I've seen this. I don't know if I've ever even said this story, but I did a collaboration with an NFL MVP years ago. And I went in there and I had to like kind of oversee the training that he did. And we had to put together content and yada, yada, yada. And I've never seen someone who just, he was an absolute freak of nature. Was demonstrating his hang clean on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd give it a 1. All of his lifting techniques, we were looking at his front squat on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 3. I mean, it was as Charlie would say, offensive. It was flat out offensive. But the guy went up and grabbed 2 100-pound plates, like the big Ollie ones, and literally pinch gripped it with 2 fingers and walked at least 100 feet across the gym floor. I couldn't grip it and hold it. I mean, freak show. So like, there is this, and then asking him, what is your training like? Well, I train 6 hours a day. Well, what do you mean? Lunch is mixed in there? Like, is recovery mixed in there? Like, what are you guys doing? He's like, no, we're starting with MMA. And I'm like, MMA? Like, I mean, everything that you could have scripted, if you wanted to make a joke out of this and you wanted to try and design something that's going to ruin an athlete, and we were to sit down and put it together, no problem. Speed and power at the end of 6 hours. What are you eating? I'm eating a pure protein bar in that 6-hour period of time. Everything that this athlete could have done wrong, he did wrong. But no one's there to manage it. And in fairness to him, is it really his fault? Is it like, does he really know? Like, does he know the answers to these questions? Is he trying to take care of his cousin? But if the owner of the organization actually had the strength and conditioning coaches and they were paying good people to turn around and say, manage this process, what starts happening to now the life expectancy of these athletes in their sport?
Yeah, that's the thing too. That's exactly what happens, right? It's like athletes do not feel that teams have their best interests at hand. Most of them don't, right? And that's because like they don't hire quality people. They check a box. Why do they not hire quality people? Maybe they don't know what to look for, right? Because everybody brings their own experiences with them. So how I perceive a strength coach is different from how somebody else perceives a strength coach, because we all have different experiences, interactions with them. So like, you go to baseball and they see baseball players and these teams, it's like, one, they're understaffed. Two, they're underpaid. And because they're underpaid, they're not going to get really great, top quality people. So that's why my wife has a job, right? Because people will go to her because she's better than them. She used to work for teams and she's like, I'm not doing this anymore. Right. So that's why guys have their guy or gal in this case, because just not quality people and they don't trust them either. Like, what are they going to tell the front office? Right. There's this huge like barrier of mistrust and distrust there that, you know, someone's going to take the sleep data, right? I remember talking to a team, a Major League Baseball team, and the guy's like, I don't want my front office seeing my sleep data. Like, why? Well, I don't know. They're going to use it against me. They're not going to use it against you, right? If you're batting 400 and you get 2 hours of sleep, nobody's going to care. If you're getting 10 hours of sleep and hitting 200, you're getting cut. It has nothing to do with the sleep. It's because you suck at your sport, right? What's going to make them get rid of you is your performance on the field. They don't care about how much you sleep off the field, right? But there is a blame game, Don, and I remember this from the college days where I wanted to hire a strength coach for men's basketball, a specific one, and the head coach wanted to hire someone else. We didn't agree. And the athletic director called me in and said, Brandon, what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. Now, I can tell you this story because none of these people are even at that school anymore. Okay. He said, I know that you want to hire this person. I said, yes, I believe that you know who is best for this program. I'm like, I appreciate that. He goes, but I can't let you hire them. Like, why? And he goes, that's because after next season, I'm going to fire our head basketball coach. And what I don't want him to say is the reason we had a terrible season was because you wouldn't let me bring my guy in. So after next year, I'm firing everybody, then you can bring in whoever you want. Like, that was a real conversation, right?
That makes sense.
Right. But that's the thing. So like, if I'm an athlete and I want my cousin, and then the GM says, no, I need to use their guy, and then I get hurt. Now what? You made me take him. I'm hurt because of you. Who knows? That might have nothing to do with it.
Of course. Right? Of course. But okay, it works both, but it works both ways. It works both ways.
Absolutely does.
It works both ways.
Absolutely does. But it's only when it's convenient for these people, right?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Yeah. Like the one person who has probably the most to do with injury prevention never gets blamed, or you never hear anything about it, the groundskeeper. Like, technically, right? If we're talking about like a field sport, no one ever, you don't see the groundskeeper saying, you know what, I'm responsible for this few injuries because I've done a great job. It's probably true.
Or the shoe supplier, right?
Yeah, there you go. Another one.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I'm going to entitle this episode "Things You Don't Learn in School."
we gotta continue this. This is too good.
I am Brandon. Brandon.
Brandon, we love having you on. We'll make you a regular if you're down. Brandon, thank you, man. And I know you're not big on social, so we'll still. Brandon's got an interesting. Yeah, we still got to pump his tires a little bit. We're still gonna do that. One day he's gonna come around. He's gonna end up. You're gonna land some massive contract one day where they're like, they want me to build my social media profile, and I'm gonna be like, here we go. Let's go, buddy. Happy to help.
Right.
I love it. Brandon, it's great seeing you as always, man. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me. Always good to chat.
Are you in Providence?
I'm in Providence.
Okay, I'm gonna see you in Providence.
Yep.
Hopefully we're not talking at this. Derek, you should come.
Or at the very least, let's do something live. You guys do something live, or do something, record something while you're there. So.
Oh, I'm coming to this talk anyway. I always come to this talk, so I'll be there. All right, brother. Thank you. Brandon, thank you for everything, man. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Take care, fellas.
Thanks, Derek.